Hi guys, I'm here at Boars Martial Arts here with Carly Gangell. We're in South Australia, so I'm going to catch up with Carly and see what she's been up to for the past year and also since her last fight as well. So, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We're together.
Yay.
So I guess I wanted to start off with, first of all, you've had a bit of time off. Just let everyone know what you've been doing in that time.
Mm-hmm. So I had my last fight in February. I came across a couple of health issues that needed tending to. So in that time, I decided to go and travel. So I travelled Europe and I also went to America. In that time, I didn't necessarily have time off. I've still been coaching and little bits of training here and there. And then I recently had a surgery, which has forced me to take a little bit of time off, but I'm in my recovery and it's all going really well, so I should be back early next year.
Yay! No one can wait for you to come back as well, because everyone's always asking me, where's Carly? When's she going to be fight again? So
I'm
that's
coming.
Good to hear. That's awesome. So you're with your surgery and everything, you're able to train now, or you've got to sort of take it slowly and...
I have to take it slowly. I've had a recovery plan where I have different stages and I can start adding things in. Obviously, it was a lot easier that I was an athlete before because I know plenty about my body, I know my limits, and obviously having that muscle memory, it was a lot easier to get back into exercise than, say, other patients would find it. So
yeah, oh cool, well, that's good. And how'd you find Europe?
Europe was amazing, completely different lifestyle. I guess I got to be a teenager for the first time in my life, I guess, and sort of proved to me that this is where I want to be, and I'm definitely
awesome.
Enjoy the sporting lifestyle, and the partying is not for me. I had enough of that.
So was that the first break you've had since what age?
Well, I've always trained pretty much my whole life, and I started fighting at 15, and since then I had never had a break. So when just after I turned 19, I thought I should probably go out and explore a little bit before I get too heavy into the sport.
Yeah. Too heavy? I think you're already in it.
Yeah, I think I'm in pretty deep now.
That's really cool. So what did you do? So you started fighting at 15. What did you do before that in any martial art?
Well, I started martial arts when I was 3, so karate based. My whole family was involved doing boxing and karate as well, and obviously my dad owned a gym, so that made it a lot easier for me to get into it. And I guess I was just surrounded by my whole life that I just became more in love with it each year that went on, and here I am.
So when you were 3, you started at 3 and just kept going that whole time, or did you ever have a break?
Oh, I'm sure I had breaks and times off when I said, I don't want to go to karate.
I'll ask your dad.
But overall, I think, I stayed pretty consistent, and the older I got, the more into it I got as well,
really
and started to appreciate the background that my family had. So, yeah,
that's cool. Because sometimes you see kids, they start and then they have a big break and then they kind of think, find other things, but that's awesome that you've just been, I guess, immersed in it the whole time. So
I did try a couple of other sports, like I tried netball and I tried cricket and stuff like that, and they were great, but nothing quite gives you the well-rounded, experience like martial arts does. Any martial arts, that is, that you do gives you so many more benefits, I think, than other sports.
And what do you find being the top sort of 3 benefits, even just for yourself, that you found?
I found that when I was growing up, even just with public speaking, myself and a couple of the other martial artists at school, we had a lot more confidence.
Yeah, right.
And we were quite comfortable with within ourselves. So I think that was a major thing growing up as a teenage girl, is I think that if you do martial arts, you become comfortable with who you are, and then you just have a lot more confidence, I think. Obviously, all the fitness aspects there is, that's pretty obvious. And maybe the respect part of it. There's the whole thing around martial artists don't get, in fights outside of gyms. And in my experience, I've found that. I've always stayed out of trouble, and a lot of the people I know involved in martial arts have always been sort of on the straight and narrow. So I think it can be quite guiding for people, even if they've had a rough past. It puts them on a good road.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. So 15 was your first fight. Talk us through, I guess, the progression you had up to where you are now in your fight career.
So when I was 12, I went and watched my first Muay Thai fight show, and I fell in love, and I said, that's what I want to do.
Yep.
So when I was 15, I had my first fight at the Muay Thai Australia Nationals,
Oh, that
which
was
was
your first
an
one.
awesome experience. I loved that. And then after that, I just sort of thought to myself, wow, let's get some experience under my belt. So we went to Thailand, and I had 2 fights there.
Yep.
So I'm really glad that I did that early on in my career, because I think that helped shape my view of the sport. I went to the world titles twice in my time as a junior, and then I've recently fought a lot on Knees of Fury, which is one of South Australia's big shows.
Yeah, that's cool. So she hasn't fought interstate yet.
No, that's on
It's
my
gonna
bucket
happen.
list.
It's
I would
happening.
love to.
So can you let me know, as a junior going over to the Worlds, how did you find that whole experience?
Well, the first time I went, I was very inexperienced, and it was just a massive wake-up call to see the talent out there and the way the different countries train and, you know, the difference in their styles. It was really daunting, but obviously having the Australian team around me made the experience that much easier. And I got to meet so many people that I've since looked up to and followed their careers. So when I went the second time, I was much more prepared.
Yeah,
I
right.
trained differently. I prepared mentally a lot more. But those events that I went to as a junior, I think really helped shape me into how I now perform as a senior. So if there's any juniors out there like considering going to the nationals, I think it's an amazing opportunity.
And that's what one thing, Carly and I actually met, that was the first time we ever met, was at the Worlds, which was really cool because even though Carly was 15 at the time, I was well into my mid-20s. Maybe older. Actually, no, I was way older. Anyway, and so yeah, it was really cool to be able to work with the juniors. I thought myself as well, and Carly and I became awesome friends ever since that day. And it really shows that age means nothing, that you can get along with people, you can help each other. It doesn't matter, you know, Carly helped me, I was helping her. It didn't matter of the age difference or experience, you know, you can learn everything from other people as well, which was great. And I'm glad we met.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So the Worlds, now then after the Worlds, you did Knees of Fury, you won some titles?
Yes, so on Knees of Fury I won a South Pacific title, and then I went on to win 2 Commonwealth titles.
Oh, awesome, that's cool.
In IKBF.
And what about at the Worlds, what did you come away with?
I came away with gold.
Yay! That's really cool. That's an awesome career, and for such a short amount of time in you know, for a young person. Because you're now how old now?
20.
20. Oh God, where's God? Where's the years gone? What's your what are you doing now with your whole career as far as sports goes, even personally? You know, you've done Muay Thai. You're a fighter. What are you doing now?
At the moment I'm coaching, so I've stepped into a trainer's role. I've sort of always been in one taking classes, but recently I've started training my own fighters out of the female program in our gym. So I guess my aim is to always give females the confidence that I found through martial arts, and also promote women in combat sports. So in our gym we've got probably more females than we do males training, and a lot of females stepping up that want to compete as well. Oh, cool. So I guess that's been my focus for the past year, so I've still been so involved with everything in the gym, so it's been really good.
So with your female program, that's the Females Fighting Forward?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that. How did it start and what's involved?
So I started Females Fighting Forward when I was 15. I had a school project where I had to start something that was personal to me. So I had a massive passion for women's self-defense because that's what my dad had been teaching seminars in, and I'd seen the difference that the women had when they walked out. They just felt confident, and you know, if they had to do something, they knew they had the grunt behind them to do it. So I started that up, and I trained and studied in women's self-defense. And from there, obviously, I started the Muay Thai program out of that, and it just grew and grew, and now I've got an amazing program running out of the gym and across South Australia. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Did you get an A in your project?
I did. I actually got an award at school for health and community service. So
oh, congratulations! That's
thank you.
Oh, that's really good. So that's amazing. It's just started as a project for school, and it's, you know, it's grown into this huge thing. That's
Yeah, I actually have a few of my teachers that now come to my program, and I was only in year 10 when I started it, and they couldn't believe that it's actually evolved into something so big.
They should be accolading that for their school.
Produced.
That's cool. So with your, how have you found changing into the coach role and having to be the person that's in the corner giving the advice? How do you find that?
It's extremely different. In a way, I think it's a lot harder because you feel responsible for that person, and once they're in there, obviously there's not much you can do. You just hope that their preparation and your guidance has been enough and that they're well equipped. I think it gives you more sense of being proud. I think there's a little bit more glory in being the trainer because you see someone else's success instead of your own. So I've really enjoyed that transition into everything I've learned and been taught to giving that knowledge to other people, and then seeing them kick their goals and achieve greatness. It's an amazing feeling.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh, excellent. And how do you find your very first time you had to go in corner? Were you nervous? I'm nervous just holding the ice bucket in the corner rather than being the person that's coaching them.
Well, I was a second through a lot of other fighters. So I got that experience and seeing how other trainers were in the corner with them. Right. So I learned a lot through that. The first time I had to be the main trainer and jump in the ring with all the advice and everything, it was really hard, but because of that bond that you have with that person, you really don't think about, the external factors or anything like that. It comes naturally, I think. Well, I didn't think it would, but it did, because you train that person, you know their strengths, their weaknesses, you know what's going to bump them up and what's going to bump them down. So I think the more experience I get, the more I'm understanding the process. I'm still so new to it, but I'm loving the learning.
That's cool.
The learning curve of it, so yeah.
Is it kind of like when you fight, you don't notice everything else, just the fight? So is it the same sort of situation?
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
And every situation is different. Just like when you go into the fight, you go into the unknown, but instead of you jumping in there, it's someone else. So it's just a whole new experience.
Yeah, cool. And what are you doing here at the gym as well, other than your coaching?
Just the general management. So I'm helping my dad out a lot with running classes. And just sort of everything. I mean, gym owners know what goes into it. There's a lot more that happens behind the scenes than you realise. Even we were just talking about vacuuming and mopping the mats is such a big job.
Which she turns into a workout for herself, she just told me, which is cool.
Yeah, so just sort of helping around the gym and making it a full-time priority, which has been really enjoyable and a great learning experience, which goes hand in hand with my business studies as well. So
yeah, so I was just about to ask you that. So at university, you're doing
business marketing. Yeah.
So what's your goal for life, for work?
Well, a lot of people have asked me that. At this stage, I don't know. I know that marketing can take me into pretty much any industry I'd like to go in. Obviously, I would love to stay in this industry, but if it happens that I go into another industry part-time, that's fine by me. I guess I just want to get as much experience as possible and see where the wind takes me.
Oh, that's cool. That's good. And it's good to be open-minded too, isn't it? And
yeah.
To kind of go, I really want to only do this and that's it. And if it doesn't work, you get all disappointed. So yeah, that's really cool. Awesome. Is there something you want to let other fighters that are up and coming, that they may be juniors around the age that you started as well? What's the biggest piece of advice you could give somebody?
To make sure that you love what you're doing, that you enjoy your training. As long as you're enjoying it, you can become a champion. I think the second that you start thinking about belts or anything like that that's up, at a high level, you need to be loving what you do to get there. I mean, you've got to have that passion. And so as long as you're enjoying it, you have a good people around you, a good trainer that cares about you and your well-being and not just the fight itself. I think you're right for success, but if you're loving it, just keep training hard, and that's probably my biggest advice. Just enjoy your training while you can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, can you let us know if anyone wants to come and do a session with you or a class, how do they get in here?
Well, we have free trials for all of our classes, so they can send us a message, give us a call, Google anything they like, and they can come in and just give it a go. If it's for them, that's awesome, we'll help them through. If it's not, we can recommend something or a different class in our gym that might be more suitable, but just come in for a free trial and most people always come back, so it must be okay.
And what classes do you offer here? What programs have you got?
So we have obviously our Muay Thai classes, so we have mixed and females only. Yep. We have morning Muay Thai. We have strength and conditioning programs, so we have classes and personal lessons in that as well. Yep. Our martial arts classes, so it's kind of like freestyle karate, but the sparring's like Muay Thai, so it's quite modern. Right. So we have that for juniors and seniors and parents and kid classes. Yep. And we have private lessons all through the week, and probably one of our biggest things, we do have the self-defense and anti-abduction program in the gym and for external organisations as well.
What's that?
So our anti-abduction program is for children, so we work on obviously common situations that children can find themselves in, being stranger danger or in the playground, bullying, anything like that. So that's for the kids. And then we also have our self-defense more for the adults. So we have our female only, specifically designed for females of any size, any strength or experience. And we put them in those common situations that women are faced in Australia. And then we also have our general self-defense, which could be for absolutely anyone. And we have our weapon ones, so knife and gun attacks as well. Right. So we try to cover a lot of everything, and more specifically, the most common situations that people find themselves in Australia.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. A lot of stuff happening at the gym here.
Yeah, cool. It's quite busy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now let us know, what's your plans fight-wise for next year?
Nothing set in stone just yet, but I'm definitely making a big comeback in 2018. Yeah. Just going to go where the wind takes me. I'm just going to love training, love fighting, and I'll just see where it takes me and do my best that I can.
Oh, that's cool. Can't wait to see you back in the ring.
Me either.
That's going to be awesome. So is there anything else you want to let people know? Anything that you, I guess, would tell any fighters that are thinking of, or people training that are thinking of fighting? Is there anything else you want to let them know?
Commitment is the biggest thing, I think. If you want to fight, you have to prove to your trainer that you are committed and that you want it for the right reasons, that you're doing it for yourself, and probably commitment's one of the biggest things.
Yeah, for
if you want to fight. I mean, you have to dedicate pretty much your life to it, as any fighter knows. There's a lot of sacrifices you have to make, but at the end of the day, if that's what you want, then absolutely go for it.
That's it. Oh, actually, one other thing I was going to ask you too, with in the industry of Muay Thai itself, is there anything that you think can be, or you'd like to see improved upon, or anything that you feel is awesome in the sport at the moment?
I think the sport is definitely growing. In some aspects, in other aspects, we're probably slowing down a little bit. In South Australia, I think there are a lot of gyms that are starting to try to build it up. I mean, we didn't have sort of inter-club or development days before, which a lot of gyms are starting to get on board with, which is building up a lot of people, hopefully. Probably love to get a lot more juniors involved in South Australia. I know it's quite big in other states, but our junior scene is really low here. So hopefully that's something that we could definitely build up in the future.
I guess you're surrounded by a lot of females here at the gym. You train a lot of female fighters as well. Obviously, you're a female yourself. I don't know how I picked up on that. Is there anything that you can, I guess, discuss with me around eating? Like, I know myself as a fighter, I had and still do have issues with, you train, you get to fight weight, you fight, it's after weigh or not weigh in, but after you fight, and then you can blow out a lot too. So talk us through, I guess, your experience in that.
Well, I've had a lot of unhealthy cuts through my career, probably as I got a little bit older, and I didn't change my fight weight from when I was younger, taking into consideration that I had grown and developed a little bit more. So I have seen the not so great end of body image issues and things like that. So I guess when I stepped into a trainer's role, my aim was to monitor that completely with our fighters. So especially the weight cuts. In our gym, there are no extreme weight cuts. We check their weight, and their fight weight is going to be very close to their healthy walk-around weight when they're fit and healthy. So I guess with training females as well, naturally there are a lot of body image issues, especially with the younger females. So I guess through education and just being someone there that they can openly talk to, making sure that they're not uncomfortable with how they look, that they understand that they will look different to weigh in than they will when they fight, than they will when they are an everyday sort of girl doing normal things. So I think talking through my experiences has helped a lot with that. And being a female, I think I do have that extra reach with some of the fighters because I'm not afraid to go into that territory and talk about it, whereas maybe male trainers sort of can't reach out in that aspect. So I think having a female amongst the fight team or as a trainer to talk them through that is really important, because as female fighters, we know we all go through it.
Yeah.
We all sometimes have warped images of what we should and shouldn't eat when it aren't actually that bad sometimes, which can be quite unhealthy for you mentally.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually an interesting point you just brought up then too, is because you were a junior when you were first starting, that you don't realise that you are growing and that your fight weight isn't always going to be that. So that's a massive thing, I guess, that people can take into consideration, that the fact that, when you're a young girl, you were still growing bone-wise, body-wise. There's lots of different factors that play into your weight. So you're not going to be at that light weight forever. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, good point. And what about with, what kind of advice do you give to your fighters that are kind of struggling with, thinking that they're fat when they're not, after they've stepped on the scales at weigh-in, and then they look at themselves and go, well, hang on.
I always try to take the approach that when you're in a sport, your body is built for a purpose. You are training for a purpose. So if you've got a bit of extra muscle or mass on you, that means you can hit hard. I mean, you're not in a sport that's, how do you put it? I don't know. Petite.
Yeah.
You have to have that grip behind you, and it's okay to have a bit of muscle, and skin and bone sometimes doesn't work great in our sport. So going along the lines of that we are purpose built,
that's cool,
can help a lot with the younger girls, I think. And I think it's awesome. I mean, they're doing something that's so cool, so different. We have better things to think about than how we look in a bikini and stuff like that. Exactly. So I try and take that approach more, that healthy is so much better than just stressing about how you look.
I love that. That's really cool. Now, one thing I wanted to actually ask you is, are you available to do, seminars for people around the country to talk about, women's self-defense, body image, this kind of thing, and fighting? Yeah.
So my favourite part about my job is the self-defense seminars that I run for women. I get to meet a lot of amazing women in so many different industries. Nurses, social workers.
Yeah, right.
Everything, and they're all put in such different situations. So that is my passion, is travelling and getting to go to private organisations, small groups of ladies that just want to give it a go. So yeah, definitely available for those.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good. Might try and get you up in Queensland.
Yeah, that'll be great. Holiday.
Yeah, my house. We're going to have a chat with your dad next. So
sure.
I'll make sure he says tells me some juicy gossip of you as a kid. Thank you so much for having a chat with us. I love what you're doing, and I cannot wait to see you back in the ring. Like, you're such an inspiration to fighters, especially juniors coming up. To see where you started and where you are now is just amazing. And
thank you.
You as a person too you're just amazing. So yeah, really good to see you. And
thank you.
So
Thanks for having me.
See ya.